Welcome to Two Guys and My Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Thompson, and the fabulous
Adam.
Adam is here with us tonight. Do a quick election recap for the week, and we're going to cover a couple of things. But before we went on air, did a quick look on the interweb. As we stand right now, Donald Trump is our president-elect. He won 312 electoral votes, which, by the way, I did call that on election day. I can actually pull up my post to a good friend of ours, and I said I will be so bold as to say that Donald Trump will win the Electoral College vote by 312, and I have been correct. I said he would win the popular vote by 4%, and as we stand right now, it's Harris at 71,150,920, and Trump to his 74,770,208. If you think your vote doesn't count, well, you're one of these people. And he won by 4 points, the popular vote for election. And I did tell that we would win the Senate by 2 seats. And as we stand right now, the Senate is in GOP control with 53 seats, which I told we would gain it by 2. So I'm pretty damn close on that one.
Not bad.
And I did say that we would hold 218 seats in the Senate and in the House, and it looks like that's going to happen. It was an absolute red wave. I couldn't believe it. I can't believe if anybody thinks that this was not a decisive election and the population just rejected the Democrats. To win in this fashion is incredible. What were your thoughts?
Well, I am still riding on cloud red.
Cloud red. I like it.
No.
I like it. It is unbelievable. Actually, what an election comeback for him. A vindication of what he has been put through by the Democrats.
That was great. I knew, and just like you, I told everybody we were going to win. I didn't think we were going to win as dominantly as we did because we all expected the steal.
Oh,
again.
Well, I don't know if you noticed that there's an actual number going around where it shows from George Bush all the way on through this Trump election. It was like 69, 80,000, 69, 70,000. Yeah. All of a sudden you get to Biden, it's 81 million. I mean million now, 69 million, 70 million, 68 million. You get to Biden, 81 million, and then back to Harris, 60, 70 million. Well, where did those, 20 to 10 to 20 million go? Because they never really existed.
They never did.
No.
It was that 4 a.m.
ballot box dump. Yeah. So Joe Biden did come out and he addressed the big elephant in the room, Donald J. Trump, stomping around. So we're going to carry his speech. Neither Adam or I have watched it, so we will check it out as we go right now.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Is it me or is he smiling?
Thank you.
That's what happens when you're put there.
Good to see this cabinet and staff together here.
Look at that smile on him. Look at him. He looks like he's relieved. There's a Joe Biden smile.
Thank you. Please.
It's the most coherent I've ever seen him.
Go figure.
Thank you. It's good to see you all. Particularly good to see my granddaughter sitting in the front row here. Hi, Finn. How are you, honey? For over 200 years, America has carried on the greatest experiment in self-government in the history of the world. And that's not hyperbole. That's a fact.
He likes that word.
We're the people.
That's a
the
fact.
people vote and choose their own leaders, and they do it peacefully. And we're in a democracy. The will of the people always prevails. Yesterday, I spoke with President-elect Trump to congratulate him on his victory. And I assured him that I would direct my entire administration to work with his team to ensure a peaceful and orderly transition. That's what the American people deserve. Yesterday, I also spoke with Vice President Harris. She's been a partner and a public servant. She ran an inspiring campaign, and everyone got to see something that I learned early on to respect so much.
That she
Her
knows nothing.
character. She has a backbone like a ramrod. She has great character, true character.
She has
She
a,
gave her whole heart,
backbone
effort.
like a ramrod.
And she and her entire
What's
team
going
should be
on in
proud
that
of the
cabinet?
campaign they ran.
It's right up her alley.
You know,
Oh, Joe.
the struggle for the soul of America since our very founding has always been an ongoing debate and still vital today. I know for some people,
He hasn't
it's a
flubbed
time
one
for
word
victory,
yet.
to state the obvious.
That's what I said. It's
For
the most
others,
coherent I've ever seen
it's a
him.
time of loss. Campaigns are contests of competing visions. The country chooses one or the other. We accept the choice the country made. I've said many times, you can't love your country only when you win. You can't love your neighbor only when you agree. Something I hope we can do, no matter who you voted for, is see each other not as adversaries, but as fellow Americans. Bring down the temperature. I also hope we can lay to rest the question about the integrity of the American electoral system. It is honest, it is fair, and it is transparent. And it can be trusted,
Especially this time around.
win or lose. I
The
also
last
hope we
time
can
was the most
restore
secure
the
ever.
respect
Oh, yeah.
for all our election workers who busted their necks and took risks at the
Busted
outset.
their necks.
We should thank them. Thank them for staffing voting sites, counting the votes, protecting the very integrity of the election. Many of them are volunteers who do it simply out of love for their country. And as they did their duty as citizens, I will do my duty as president. I'll fulfill my oath, and I will honor the Constitution.
Mask is wrinkling.
On
up
January
in the corner.
20th, we'll have a
Explain
peaceful
why he's so
transfer of
coherent.
power here in America. To all our incredible staff, supporters, cabinet members, all the people who've been hanging out with me for the last 4 years, God love you, as my mother would say. Thank you so much. You put so much into the past 4 years. I know it's a difficult time. You're hurting. I hear you and I see you. But don't forget all that we accomplished.
Yeah, you
an
got
historic
Donald Trump elected. Woohoo!
Not because I'm president,
You've
because
done
what
good,
we've
Joe.
done, what you've done. A presidency for all Americans. Much of the work we've done is already being felt by the American people, but the vast majority of it will not be felt. We felt over the next 10 years. We have
Oh,
legislation.
he's
we
starting to
passed
falter here.
that's just only now just really kicking in.
There he is.
We're going to see over $1 trillion worth
Starts
of
to
infrastructure
whisper
work
and
done,
talk like this.
changing people's lives in rural communities and communities that are in real difficulty because it takes time to get it done.
His
So
hands look
much
like
more.
plastic.
It's going to take time,
Why are they purple?
but it's there.
He needs
The
an
road
oxygen
ahead
machine.
is clear, assuming we sustain it.
Where's his concentrator?
There's so much we can get
His
done.
hands are
Dude,
purple.
his
And
hands
will
are
get done
purple
based on the way the legislation was
because he's an
passed.
alien.
And it's truly historic. You know, we're leaving behind the strongest economy in the world. I know people are still hurting, but things are changing
Did you
rapidly.
just say we're leaving
Together,
the
we've
greatest
changed America
economy,
for
but
the
people
better.
are still hurting?
I've never
Now we
made
have
more
74
and been more
days to
broke.
finish the term, our term.
I'm falling unburdened.
Let's make every day
unburdened by
count.
what it could have been.
Thank you.
That's the responsibility we have to the American people. Look, folks, you all know it in your lives.
There we go.
Setbacks are unavoidable, but giving up is unforgivable.
Oh, yes.
Setbacks are unavoidable, but giving up is
And
unforgivable.
you repeated it twice. Means it's
We
a
all
lie.
get knocked down. But the measure of our character, as my dad would say, is how quickly we get back up. Remember, a defeat does not mean we are defeated. We lost this battle. The America of your dreams is calling for you to get back up. That's the story of America for over 240 years and counting. It's a story for all of us, not just some of us. The American experiment endures. We're going to be okay, but we need to stay engaged. We need to keep going. And above all, we need to keep the faith. I'm so proud to have worked with all of you. I really mean it. I sincerely mean it. God bless you all. God bless America. And may God protect our troops. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well, I think that was an action-packed speech, full of lies and convolutions.
Thank God you can't see his cross under that.
Yeah. So the
'Cause
kicker
that's
is,
sacrilege.
so for the last 4 years, well, let's say 2 years anyways, they kept saying how Trump was an existential threat, how he was a Hitler, a fascist, a Nazi, a this, a that, and all of a sudden everything's going to be okay. It's going to be okay.
Well, we have to come together.
Because
Now is the time not
Yeah.
to be divisive.
I mean, is he bad or is he good? Is he okay or is he bad?
Yeah,
I'm really getting mixed messages here, Joe.
Don't worry. In New York State, you can still.
You are an un-American because you voted for the GOP.
So our our governor,
Yeah,
governess,
Dictatoress Kathy Hochul, for all of you who are not in New York,
Squinty Eye Hochul.
came out, I believe, the day before the election that if you were going to vote for Donald Trump or any GOP stands for Grand Old Party or Republican, that you were un-American.
Guilty. Guilty.
I don't remember a time when politicians were so nasty to the opposition electorate. I mean, it's one thing to call their adversaries something, but to call the voter themselves names, I don't understand. This is new. This is new in politics.
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, if you dive into the history of the Democrat Party, this is synonymous with what they've done since their inception to today.
Now,
They only think that the Democrat Party picks up in the 60s at Kennedy. They forget about everything that happened before
oh, of course.
and after.
So, what is your take on everything else that took place here?
Well,
Let's start with the actual election itself and where how Trump actually took over the electoral map and just ran with it.
well, just like you, I mean, I told everybody when they asked me, "What do you think is going to happen?" I said, "We're going to win." By how much? I don't know. I figured this was going to be a week-long, like a George Bush, Florida thing.
Yeah. You can't say that about Florida anymore. 90 minutes, even though they have a population of 10 million and 2 time zones.
24 million.
24 million, so as much as New York. 2 time zones, they came out within 90 minutes with the votes were counted, and here are the results.
Yeah, and
Arizona is still counting.
Yeah, and Florida has offered Arizona to give them their election
System. I mean, to me, it should be a law that your vote has to be in within 5 hours of being counted.
Because when did they call Arizona? Was it
Today.
This morning?
Yeah.
And somehow, this is strange. Somehow Trump won, and all the down ballots won, but Kerry Lake's numbers are way off of the you know what I mean? Everything is way off from Kerry Lake. So how are you going to?
What are they saying about her right now? Because they're saying I heard a report that they're saying that she could still win.
Yeah, she's still.
So there's still a path to victory for her. They said.
That's because we've broken their algorithm. And if you look at the map, any state that Kamala won does not require a voter ID.
Yeah, that I don't.
That's a strange one.
I don't understand how that's a hard sell for some reason. You need a driver's license to go buy a book, to go and get a book, to buy beer, to buy spray paint, to do almost anything, but you don't
Go
need
fishing.
Yeah, go fishing. Yeah, get a fishing license, whatever. Yet you don't need any kind of ID to go and do the one thing that the federal government says is the biggest issue for citizens is the right to vote. Yet that's unprotected.
Well, they say some of our population is not capable of doing such things as getting a ID, which is completely racist.
So as of right now, they're about 51,000 votes
That's it.
shy between Gallego and Lake. And Gallego's got 1,500,000 and Kerry Lake's got 1,450,000. So there's 50.
So the whole state is going to go
So
Trump and everybody else.
they right now they're saying that
But we're going to go for that.
89% have votes have been reported. So there you go.
There's something fishy there.
But the kicker is, and this is where a lot of people get upset with third parties. So in Arizona, there is a third party, a Green Party. Quintina is his name. He's got 2%, 64,000 votes. So, there's your undecided or your third party. It could be ruining it for the Republican or the Democrat, either way.
But I would think that would go throughout the whole thing. Why is it just one person?
Oh.
And probably the most influential of the state.
Should be interesting, but
Who's gonna
they're
flip
still
the
they're still
table?
10%. But unfortunately, they're saying that now that 10% is getting close to, if you break it down, there's just still not enough votes for Kerry Lake to win. But they still have yet to call that race.
I wonder if they're using Dominion.
Well, you
Like
never
New
know.
York, which 99% of our voting systems in New York are Dominion.
I just find it so difficult how people can walk in and say, for argument's sakes, well, I'm going to vote for Trump as president, but then I'm going to vote for a Democrat as a senator, and then a Republican as a congressman, and then I'm going to vote for a conservative proposition. It just seems weird to me. I mean, how many people really split a ballot? I don't know that exists anymore for the most part.
And the same thing happened in 2020. How can the down ballots win, but not the president?
True that. Although here in New York, a lot of the gains that we made in 2022, which gave Republicans the House, all those Marinero, and there's another one, both out of Westchester and Long Island, they were Republican seats and they lost.
Which goes to show anybody, if you don't like the Electoral College, come to New York because your voice will not count.
Oh yeah, New York. Well, the funny thing is, Adam, I tell everybody, especially that lives in New York, I said, here's a perfect example why Electoral colleges, New York is a reason that you can use as an electoral college because New York City dictates whatever the state votes.
Yep.
So if let's say the New York senator that only has to campaign in New York City, in Rochester, and Buffalo, that's it. Doesn't need to go anywhere else. If only those three cities had, let's say, 10% each on a weight scale, and then every other county counted as a point, well, then he would have to represent everybody else. He wouldn't win the totality. And that's how an electoral college vote is. It gives rural areas weight where the urban vote can't win unanimously. And I don't understand how it's so hard for people to understand that.
It gives the minority a vote.
It does. It really does.
So if you think you're a minority, you want the electoral.
Especially if you're a state.
Exactly.
So, all right. What else you got? You got a nice little list there of stuff you want to talk about. So let's on with your list here.
Well, there's quite a few things to touch base on here.
Because we're going to go through the a little bit later the sheer out of their mind madness that the left is going through now. I've lost friends over this. I mean, literally, we had a Friendsgiving this past weekend, and one of my friends called me and said, we can't come over. I'm like, oh, why? Everything all right? Everything good? He says, no, my significant other is so distraught about the election, is so beside herself that she doesn't want to be around anybody that voted for Trump. How are you so delusional? And I was reading Facebook posts how these women are. I'm filled with rage and I can't take this. And this has put us back 60 years. Nothing changes at all.
Nothing has changed. And, for the main argument of women's choice or body choice,
Yep.
they didn't care about that during COVID.
No.
Let's remember that.
My body was not my choice in COVID.
No, you have to, or you're fired.
Yes.
But it's just absolutely astonishing that people don't understand that it's not in the federal government's purview to dictate that sort of thing. It's a state's rights. It comes down to your state. And if you want it, vote for it, which New York overwhelmingly did.
Or, if you don't like what's going on in your state, like Ronald Reagan said, vote with your feet. You can always move or actively change the people who are voting for what you don't like in a regular election. Vote them out.
Which I don't know the numbers, but it's the amount of people that move out of New York State every single year it's well over 100,000.
I mean, I will say, just to play devil's advocate, I look at Prop 4 in Florida. That was the one that would change the Constitution of Florida to allow. Right now, all they have is a 6 weeks moratorium. So if within the time I think you had your last menstrual cycle, it's really weird how they have it worded. To the last chance you have to have an abortion is 6 weeks. I think that's really constrictive, but that's what the people of Florida voted. Now, Prop 4 would allow that to go into like a 36-month deal, or where they deem it as a viable baby, then they couldn't do anything more. Well, it was ambiguous in how it was written. The term viability was not clearly defined, and they needed a supermajority to get it passed. And in the law currently, that 6 weeks, there's no exception for rape, incest. There is zero exceptions.
Wow.
So if so I could see where people like the Roe v. Wade would have allowed something different. But if the state doesn't want that, and the majority of the people in the state don't want that, it is what it is. Then move out of that state if you want to be able to have abortions at 8 and 9 months and 7 months and 6 months and use it as birth control instead of what it is. Go to a state like New York or California or Minnesota or whatever.
Yeah, no, and speaking as a libertarian point of view, because I definitely believe in don't tell me what to do.
Yeah.
I can totally see it all. But as the great Bill Burr once said, Bill Burr, if I'm making a cake and I put it in the oven, you come over and you rip it out and throw it across the floor, and I say, hey, you just ruined my birthday cake, and you say, oh, that wasn't a cake. Well, it would have been if you gave it 50 minutes. It would have been a cake. You cake murdering son of a bitch.
I like Bill Burr, actually, but I never heard that.
That was a funny one.
That was good. But, that's a great way to explain that.
Yeah.
A great way to explain it. It's still a cake.
Yeah.
Just because it's not cooked doesn't mean it's not a cake.
Exactly.
It's still cake batter.
But, obviously there is exceptions, which anybody in their right mind should agree with.
I have to say, I looked at the Florida law, and it doesn't make any sense to me that there isn't an exception past that 6 weeks for rape, incest, child trafficking, or whatever.
Or defection of the child.
Yeah, or even if it wasn't even clearly stated if the mother's life was in jeopardy. So I disagree with that law too. I mean, yes, I'm a Republican, and I'm actually more of a libertarian than a Republican, but I'm conservative. I don't think that law is right either.
No, you have a conscience.
There's got to be a happy medium that, as a conservative who doesn't believe in abortion as a form of contraception, but does believe that if there's a viability issue with the fetus or the baby, whatever term you want to call it, or the mother's life is in danger, or it was through nefarious means that the woman got impregnated, there should be a mechanism to,
But to the club hopper, that makes bad decisions, this isn't a form of birth control.
No.
You know what I mean? Like you have
yeah,
to deal. There's actions.
I
and
remember
repercussions.
somebody I know, after 5 months, decided I just don't want to have this kid anymore.
Yeah, and that's there's and it's the sad part is there's millions and millions of families that wish they could have a child.
But you know the problem, Adam. I think one of the things I look at New York, for example, only because I have some friends that are going through stuff like this. They're having difficulties having kids or want to have kids, but they don't want to adopt New York kids because in New York, at any time, the parents can come back and grab their kid. Wow. Which imagine, so you've adopted this newborn.
Invested so much.
10 years goes by. This is part of your family. You've invested. You're emotionally invested. You're financially invested. You're invested in everything of yourself like you would your own child. Which that's to me the fact that it's not your child and you're able to do that makes you that much bigger of a person. And then suddenly the paternal parents come and say, hey, we want our kid back, and there's nothing you can do about it. Could you imagine that?
No, that's not right.
But New York allows that. New York allows that. So, I think a lot of things are wrong with our system when it comes to the abortion issue, and that's all part of it. And I hope that with it coming away from the federal, move down to the states, give it 2 or 3 election cycles, I think a lot of this stuff will be worked out.
And as, intermingled as all this stuff is all the more reason why the federal government has no purview in any of this. Which the Supreme Court ruled.
Yeah. Which is where it should have ruled back in the 60s.
It's well.
Yeah.
If you dive into this, supposedly, I don't have the facts in front of me, but Jane Doe, which was not her name, on her deathbed said that she lied about being gang raped or whatever it was that caused that whole Roe v. Wade. And, it's a sick thing, what people believe and, how little research they actually want to do on things they would stand on a hill for,
Well, to that point, we're going to segue into the next topic here is with the election being done and everything coming out here, there is a huge animosity towards people who voted Republican or for Trump. And this is really breaking up friendships and families to the point where it's actually filtering its way into news. And they're talking about this. And there was actually a Yale professor that came out. Well, I'll let you guys listen to it because to me, it makes 0 sense at all.
Celebrating the holidays with your family. But if you're a liberal with Trump supporting relatives, a Yale psychiatrist has this advice.
Say, I have a problem with the way that you voted. I'm not going to be around you this holiday. I need to take some to a situation where you have family members, where you have close friends who have voted in ways that are against you, like what you said, against your livelihood. And it's completely fine to not be around those people and to tell them why, to say, I have a problem with the way that you voted because it went against my very livelihood and I'm not going to be around you this holiday. I need to take some space for me.
A Yale psychiatrist arguing if you disagree with your family, well, then you are the bad guy.
Yeah.
You should just cut them off, cut them out of your life.
So what do you say to that? I mean, to me, that is nuts. So now these Yale professors are saying it's okay to not talk to your folks.
Well,
how are you going to heal the division unless you talk things out? To me, alienating family over politics makes no sense to begin with, but.
Because apparently we can't do anything. We can't, you know what I mean? We can't change anything. So why are you doing something?
Yeah.
Well, apparently we could do something. And as we touched base on the last time I was here, difficult truths. People don't, it's very uncomfortable for people to, what do they call it? Cognitive dissonance.
You've said that before.
Yeah, cognitive dissonance is a major thing. People having to grapple with the reality that things that they believe are not what they believed it to be, is a major thing. And you know, apparently 4 to 6% of our population is gone forever. Like, it doesn't matter what you show them, what they see, what they
I think it's
experience.
a lot more than 4 to 6%. I would say it's more like 20%.
Yeah, well, you're still looking at 30 million people. You know what I mean? That's a big chunk of people. But people just, they want to keep the sheets over their face. They don't want to wake up.
And no matter what evidence you give them, they don't want to listen or believe. I mean, nowhere is there any proof that Donald Trump would be a dictator.
If he
And yet-
was, he would have.
They believe this to the point that they're willing to absolutely alienate families and friends and give up friendships, and it's crazy to me.
Yeah, the man brought peace to the Middle East. Like, literally
Hey,
signed peace
he-
deals with Middle Eastern countries.
He was the
and
first
Israel.
one to get the Abraham Accords that actually gave the framework for peace in our time in the Middle East.
But no Nobel for him.
No, of course
Why
not.
would you give credit for that?
Jeez, because that would give Donald Trump a victory.
First time in 2,000 years there's been peace in the Middle East.
You know what? You know what though? There's a little thing that was put out this week, and I couldn't pull it up on the screen for you guys to see, but unfortunately, I just couldn't find it in the format of the computers. But I did get it. I found it on my phone. So let me just read it to you. So, in the 4 days or 5 days, well, it's 7 now, almost 7, 5 days since Donald Trump was elected, and he is the president-elect. Here are 5 of the major things that have happened geopolitically around the world that goes to show you the world was looking for Donald Trump. They needed a catalyst to change. He is the change maker.
They needed an adult in the room.
Yes. So the EU came out and said they want to buy American natural gas. And you know why?
To avoid the tariffs.
To avoid the tariffs.
Which is constitutional. Taxes are not.
But the thing is, and what people don't understand, and I think the media did people a huge disservice, is that tariffs, you don't have to impose tariffs. You can use them as an economic tool and say, okay, that's fine. You don't want to buy my steel. Well, then I will leverage some tariffs onto your wine coming in. It's not across the board. You can pinpoint and target tariffs to bring them to the table to discuss equitable trade deals. It's something that America has never done because we've been led by a bunch of schleps.
Well, we have done it, but it's
Under-
in the last 100 years that those things have been
Yes.
reined in.
Absolutely. Putin said he will sell Russian oil in U.S. dollars, which is big because losing the global benchmark as a U.S. dollar for oil exchange is a huge problem economically because we need that reserve currency status because that's what props up a lot of our banks. Hamas came out and wants to have a brokered peace talks with Israel since the election. Why do you think that is?
Because they know the hammer's going to come for them if they don't.
Because you know what? Donald Trump would hammer Israel as hard as he was handle Hamas if they don't stick to a deal. And that's exactly why the Arabs voted for him, because they felt that they would get a free shot at peace with Donald Trump, and they weren't getting a free shot at peace with the Democrats.
No, they were being funded.
Yep.
Which is why Kamala ran different ads
In different places.
sections of the country,
Yeah.
favoring to different
To your point,
communities.
yep, Kamala Harris in Pennsylvania ran ads in favor of Israel, and in Michigan ran ads in favor of Palestine, talking out of both sides of her mouth. This is why the Democrats lost, guys. It has nothing to do with Donald Trump. The policies were bad. What the message they were giving was bad. The product they had to sell, nobody wanted it.
And it certainly wasn't the money.
No. So as a matter of fact, Kamala Harris went into her election campaign with $1 billion. Billion with a B, folks. And on election night, she was in the hole by $20 million.
What happened to that 20 million? You think something's going to be perking here pretty soon?
I think paying all these celebrities to come out and play is what a lot of that money went.
The
which
Diddy
did no
list.
good. Zelensky had a private phone call with Donald Trump to talk about brokering a peace negotiations between Russia and the Ukraine. Go figure. Where was Biden in all this? My issue with Biden, not that I'm sure the intentions were good, but when you call the guy you want to bring to the table to talk about peace a war criminal, a dictator, a horrible human being,
Sends the wrong message.
you think he's motivated to go and talk to you?
It's not good psychology.
Yeah, doesn't work. And the biggest one of it all, I think personally, is Mexico is starting to crack down on these big migrant caravans coming up through
Yeah,
through
they
Mexico.
stopped one.
Yep. And he's not even president, guys.
They just know. The
And
same
yet,
thing
and yet
happened
the
last
media
time.
is not reporting this.
No. Well, we know who funds the media.
Yeah, George Soros of the world. So what's your take on the first 100 days?
Well, as I said before, the tie is coming off. This is his third win.
Yep.
This is his third win, which there is a loophole because of the botched impeachments that he can actually go again.
Could you imagine that?
There is actually a clause in the in the paperwork there that he can run again. So he says he's not because he's almost 80 years old, but
Talk about a guy who has a lot of energy.
oh god,
Holy crap.
I think I saw he's done 900 rallies in the last 10 years or so.
You know what I thought was funny? So they, cameras are
Less
on
than 10 years.
cameras are on Trump 24/7, and they never caught him yawning once.
He would be out till 2 in the morning
And yet they caught Kamala Harris more than once yawning and looking haggard and tired.
or slurring. And
Yeah. Well, she enjoyed her little cocktails. That's what she liked doing. Come on, let's
We
be
all
honest.
do.
Let's be honest. But so what do you think his first priority is? Like I said,
it's going to be a slew. How Biden disabled all the things he did in those first days.
all the executive orders.
I think it's going to be an onslaught, and I think elections, even though we won, there was, like I said, there was plenty of fraud that went on, and I think he goes after that, which our elections need to be fixed, or they will do it again.
I think, granted, every state runs its own elections, and every county runs its own elections from there. I think what they should do is that in a presidential election, it is uniform across the country.
Like a holiday, just like every.
No,
other-
I mean the way the votes are counted, tabulated, what machines you use, what process you do, what documentation you need. You want to have unfettered bull crap during the non-presidential election. That's up to you. But during a presidential election, you cannot. These are the requirements you must meet, or else you're fined by the federal government for not meeting these requirements.
But I think there should be a federal
Standardized. Yes.
holiday. One day only, just like Florida. I mean, Argentina can do 99% of their votes in hours. But,
Yeah.
It takes Arizona a week.
Nuts.
So
Nuts.
it should be a uniform thing.
And it's not that many people. It's not like it's
a lot of
it's
desert
not like,
in Arizona.
Yeah, but it's not like it's California. You got a ton of people to count. There's not a lot of votes to count.
California has as many people as the whole country of Canada.
Yeah. So does close to New York is close. I think it's 32 million in Canada, and
We're
I think
like
we're at
19.
26. Oh well, we have lost a lot of population. Yes.
We're like 19.
Now I got to
18.
look this up.
Yeah.
Population of New York.
Florida has way more because a lot of people have
Yeah.
left and brought their politics.
So what do you think? What is it?
And you know what I mean? All those people leaving, they're people that have the ability to leave.
Yeah, all the money leaves. That's the problem.
Exactly. These are
So
state workers
what
that
was
take their
your-
pensions to Florida.
What was your number?
19?
Wow. Damn, pretty smart. You're pretty smucking farts.
Yeah,
19.57 million.
you get lucky sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't think it was that much. California's got 38 million.
Yeah.
Almost 39.
Look out Canada.
All right.
So when people compare countries,
I'll be
compare.
really bad if I was wrong on Canada because
Yeah, Canada is roughly the same number as Cali.
a little higher, 41.
Roughly.
40 million. Yeah, you're right, 40 million.
That's probably some in New York.
Which
too.
actually it surprises me it's that much actually, but
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of barren. There's not much going on.
no, everything's within 25 miles of the border.
Most of the pot. Yeah, exactly.
For,
Most
the
of the
41st parallel. 41st parallel. I just here's what I think what's going to happen his first 100 days. Correct me if I'm wrong. And if you think I got to go someplace else to look another direction, you tell me. I think day one, first thing is drill, baby, drill. He opens the Keystone Pipeline, releases the grapple on Anwar, and he opens up all of Utah, Arizona, and all the desert properties that the federal government holds right now. It makes it all available for exploration. I think he's going to repeal the drilling off the Intercontinental Shelf. I think that he is also going to stop the EV mandates to bring down the cost of electricity.
Build that wall.
I don't know if he's going to. I think, as far as immigration, I don't think that's his first goal. I think he's going to say it is, but it's not. I think his first one is to rein in inflation. That's the first thing that hits people quick.
That'll come in the spring, I think.
You think so?
I think they're going to try to hit him there.
What do you mean?
Well, our economy is a very delicate thing, and no president wants to be the one holding the bag when the failed system collapses. That's why they keep raising the debt every year. Why they keep printing more money every year. I think we need to get back. Just before Kennedy died, 100 days before he died, he was instituting Executive Order 1111, I believe it was, which was going to put us back on the
Gold standard?
the silver certificate.
Silver certificate.
And the first thing LBJ did on the plane was repeal that order.
If that doesn't scream inside job,
His wife's with Kennedy's blood on his wife's clothes next to him. That's when all this went down, on that plane. It's sick. These people are sick. And, I mean, he's got plenty of other things. That's a different show. But, I think if he makes it, you got to understand this. We haven't won yet. These are caged animals backed into the corner.
I believe that there is big problems coming. I think.
I don't think there's anything they won't try.
I think the only saving grace in this whole thing, and this is what I said from the get-go, is at the end of the day, he kept the House, he expanded the Senate, he got the Electoral College, but the biggest prize of the night was winning the popular vote. Mm-hmm. You know, this is not a contested election; it's a decisive election.
12 million.
You know, so you can't say he didn't win. You can't say he cheated. You can't say, people didn't come out. No, they came out. They just didn't like what the Democrats were saying. That's irrefutable. And it's not just whites. It's Hispanics. It's blacks. It's Chinese. It's high educated, low educated. It's all those things, and I do not. But you know what? I think there's probably a good place to stop. We will bring this back up. We delved into an awful lot of stuff all at once.
I have more.
You have more.
I have more. So we talked about the $1 billion that Kamala raised.
Yes.
Well over $1 billion, and she still ended up $20 million in debt.
Yes.
Trump
You
raised
gotta speak up, Jimmy.
raised well over 380 million, I think it was. Roughly.
He was outspent 3 times.
And what he actually spent was like 340 million. So he spent about 40 million less than what he raised. So if that doesn't show you what he can do in government,
Yeah.
and Elon, and then Kennedy, I think the table is about to get flipped.
I think, you know, everybody talks about how is Trump going to pay for his agenda? How is he going to get all this stuff passed? He's not going to have to pay for anything. It's called the government. It's going to have to learn to live within its means, which means cutting social programs, cutting departments, divesting itself of Washington, D.C. You know, why is the agricultural department in Washington, D.C., why isn't it out in Nebraska where the farming is actually happening?
Because they pay farmers to not grow all their land.
But the point is that the agricultural department should be where the agriculture is taking place.
Yeah.
Get them out of D.C. And what happens? You don't have this bloated bureaucracy filled with bureaucrats that feed on themselves to find themselves ways to keep themselves busy and find themselves jobs. You gotta defranchise the government, so to speak. Ooh, I like that. Defranchise the government.
Franchise, I like that.
Yeah.
That's good.
So we are going to have a when can you come back on? We'll have a follow-up show on this.
Let's keep it rolling.
You want to keep it rolling?
Keep it
Okay.
rolling.
I thought you had to go.
I do. I can hold. So there's a few.
So this is your 100-day plan here.
So sticking on the government and the pork, we'll call it. There is well over, I think it's 430, 450 different government agencies out there.
That's nuts.
We've created roughly like 2 agencies every year that the country's been in existence, so to speak.
Yeah.
Which I don't think anybody can name more than 10. So
They have government agencies watching government agencies watching government agencies.
yeah, and then you dive in, like in the most recent headlines, the not head of FEMA, but some top echelon of FEMA, she was just removed from her position because she was telling people when they were surveying the hurricane damage, if there's
I did hear
if
that.
there's a Trump sign past that house,
I did hear that.
do not go to that house.
Isn't that incredible? Now they would blame Donald Trump for doing that, but has the media reported that? No, that was on podcasts and alternative media, and it has been proven.
And why doesn't FEMA have money to help those people in South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, Florida?
Because they've spent it elsewhere.
It was allocated elsewhere.
Oh, yeah.
To illegal immigrants.
So you know I went to North Carolina.
Yeah.
And
Thank you for doing that.
It was the most amazing thing I ever did. It was great. And if you guys are wondering what it was like, I actually did a show, look back in our history, and it described what I did. Really cool show. So check it out. But one thing when I was down there, they were all Trump people. All Trump people.
The whole country is.
No, what I'm saying is the people that were actually working, volunteering, doing the work, there were no Harris supporters there. They were all Trump people helping. The Harris supporters are busy waiting for government to show up because they couldn't help themselves. But the Trump people got in there and helped and worked and volunteered and did what they had to do to help their neighbors because the government didn't show up. Guys, I was there.
Or
There was
halfway
no
across the country.
government. There was no government there. There was no FEMA there.
What a bunch of fascists.
There was no FEMA. It was and the hurt was real down there.
Yeah.
And it still is actually.
No, they were decimated.
Yep. But I think, getting back to the election, I think this was just a repudiation of government overall. I think people were just tired. You know, I heard this. It was a Fox News reporter, and they were, she was going back and forth with one of the panels, who obviously was a Harris supporter or a Democrat. We'll say a Democrat. I don't know who she supported. It was a Democrat. And the Fox reporter or the Fox moderator said, look, when people said to the Democrats or to the government, we don't feel safe in our streets, and the Democrats' response was defund the police, that's your problem. That's the disconnect the Democrats have with the electorate.
Let the criminals run the asylum.
Yeah, and they're calling that of us now because I don't want to have an unsafe street. I don't want to have to worry about sending my kids to the store or worry what my kids are doing or who they're playing with or going to the bathroom on their own or whatever else. I don't want that kind of America. I don't know why. I don't know why. And the problem is most of Americans think like that. They don't want boys in girls' bathrooms. They don't want this woke ideology. They don't want the defund the police. Most Americans think police officers, as pissed off as we get once in a while, they're good people.
You teach your kids, that's where you go if you have a problem. Like, and it's crazy. It's only the criminals or the people with sketchy backgrounds that don't want to.
And yet the problem is you speak out against it and you're vilified.
That's the Mockingbird media.
I'll tell you, I did a
Project Mockingbird.
Yeah, I did. I actually had to take it down because it was so. I got so much hate over it. I did a kind of like a narration, not a narration. It was my version of an editorial page where I dressed up as a brown shirt and I had a Trump hat and I had an American flag armband. And I said,
that was risky.
It was, but the point is, the whole point. I mean, within 2 seconds of saying, does this look stupid? Well, it is stupid because I'm not one of these. Yet this is what the Democrats are calling me out to be because I vote for Donald Trump and I believe that my country should be first and foremost. And well, that video was clipped and pasted by people, and my voice was AI'd and saying, I love Hitler. It was unbelievable. And then it was sent out to people I knew and affecting my business and not even what I said. All you had to do was listen to what I said, and I repudiated all of it. But the point is, the Democrats and the media thought it was okay to say that of me. But as soon as I called them out on it, holy shit, they lost their mind. Lost their mind. I don't understand. You know what it is? Adam, I don't understand that kind of thinking. I would not wish ill on any of my enemies. No. Not even enemies.
Maybe.
Yeah, not wrong one. I would not wish ill on anybody that voted for Harris.
No.
Never.
That's an ideology.
Your
Your ideology doesn't work. Yeah. It'll pan out in the long run.
We have difference of ideas. It is what it is. Yeah. I would never give up a friendship for somebody that voted for Harris. Never in a million years. When Biden won, and I think he didn't win, I think it was absolutely a stolen election. Yes, I've said it. There you go. I didn't not talk to my friends that voted for Biden.
I gotta take this. Keep it going real quick.
So, be that as it may, it's just nuts that this happens today. It was that's all I kept hearing all day long on the news. And if you follow any of your Facebook feeds, all of a sudden it's all anti. I just don't understand that level of hate. I just don't understand it. I mean, I did not like Biden. I really didn't. I did not like his policy. I don't know him as a person. And this is the thing, everybody says they hate Trump. You don't know the man. You've never met the man. You're basing your facts on what the media puts out and his policies. Just like Kamala Harris. I didn't like her policy. She might have been a great person to have a drink with or go out to a club, whatever. I didn't like the policy. So that's why I didn't like her. I would never wish her ill. I would never wish her family ill. Why is it okay to do that of Donald Trump's? I don't understand. I think that's a party that has a problem with fundamentally by the way they think.
Yeah. Give me a woman who talks like Trump, and I would love her too, and does what he did. He doesn't have to talk like him, but that's probably the most divisive thing about him. People don't like his language, but Trump talks in the vernacular.
Look at Carrie Lake. Carrie Lake is a firm
she's
frank spoken, but she speaks the truth and speaks her mind, and you're not going to stifle her or silence her. Yeah. I think Trump's problem is I think he was the first politician that was truly unrefined.
Because he's not a politician.
Yeah, that's true. And I think people had a really hard time understanding that. And I don't think he controlled the narrative on that.
You know, he's a true New Yorker. You know, and you don't tell us what to do. And the thing about Trump is he speaks in the vernacular. He talks like a regular person. And we've all been so conditioned that people have to speak and be politically correct and do this and follow this line and straighten your tie. You know what I mean? You have to do all these things to be a politician and be respected and lead the world. He talks like a man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a regular Joe. You could sit here and look at Joe Rogan. He had a 3-hour conversation with Joe Rogan, just whatever, off the whim, whatever you want to talk about.
I'll tell you, anybody who's a Trump detractor, I highly encourage you to listen to that interview, because you will not walk out of there with the same opinion of him that you did going in. Yeah. I'll tell you, I didn't think Trump was a dumb person. You don't get to where you are, where he is in life at being dumb. But I didn't realize how smart he was until I listened to that interview.
He's a 5D chess player.
He is a really smart person.
It doesn't matter what he's talking about. You want to talk about MMA, if you want to talk about the economy.
Joe Rogan has a way of throwing out like odd questions. And he brought up the dead whales. That people made fun of it. But he had a logical answer, and it came out to be one of the reasons that it's the windmills off the coast and the vibrations and the harmonics that they make that they're driving. It's like it would be like listening to a crying baby for 40 hours straight. You'd lose your mind.
And there's a reason why Kamala didn't do that show. Why she had these stipulations, why it had to be cut short, why he had to go to her, why, you know.
Well, because she couldn't answer stuff like that. She's not smart.
No, because
she might be book smart,
yeah,
but she's not smart.
And I bet you if he went to her, they would have done the filming, which meant that they had the rights to edit and distribute.
Like 60 Minutes did.
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly.
Like 60 Minutes. I just don't think
she would have collapsed.
You know, I don't think, and believe me, I love this red wave.
Not that it would have deterred any voting. You know, I don't think that would have done anything to anybody.
No, I think people had their choices made up by then. Yeah, but I think what happened though with Joe Rogan, I think when people did tune in, people that were on the fence said, you know what, I'm voting for Donald Trump, and I think that's what happened, because he's not stupid, he's not what the media is portraying him to be. You know, he has
his moments.
Yeah, I mean,
which means he's human.
You know, I've often said, and I anybody who's listened to the podcast has heard me say this many times, and anybody who's sat at Thompson's Tavern has heard me say it countless times as well. I think if at some point in the 2020 election, Donald Trump would have done a little bit of a mea culpa, where he would have said, "Look, I know I've pissed you. Look the camera dead in the eye and said, look, I know I've upset you guys. I may have said things that were a little off tone or off key. Maybe they're a little harsh or insensitive. Maybe made fun of somebody I shouldn't have made fun of. But it's because I'm passionate and I'm fighting every day for your kitchen tables and your economy of your home and the economics of your life, and not take away from your civil rights and liberties that government's trying to do. So for that, sometimes I say some stupid things. Sometimes I say things that are off color because I am passionate. I'm not a 40-year career politician that has a forked tongue that can speak golden fleece out of his mouth and you'll believe everything because it sounds nice. That's not me. I am just busy fighting in the trenches because they're coming after you. I'm just standing in their way. And I think had he said something a little like that, a lot of people were like, you know what?
And he might have, but the media doesn't show you that.
No, but if he did, did that at one of the debates during the 2020 election, did a little bit mea culpa moment, I think it would have changed a lot of people's minds. The problem is Donald Trump will say something that is so off key, but never apologize for it, even though he knows it's wrong. He might say, it was a stupid comment. He doesn't say sorry I said it.
Yeah.
Because it's a New Yorker in him, like you said.
Yeah.
But I think people, especially on the left, want to have that, oh, I'm sorry. They need that.
Well, it's all about feelings.
Yes. So I think had he done a little bit of that, I think it would have gone him a long way. Just like the whole thing with Tony and the garbage island, Puerto Rico. You know,
Which was it the next day or that night? The senator from Puerto Rico came out and supported him.
yes.
And then,
But also, if you Google Puerto Rico and garbage, they have a huge garbage problem in Puerto Rico.
Which
it's not
Biden-
being picked up. They have no room to landfill. It was a joke. Wrong venue.
correct.
You know what I mean?
And Biden actually I don't think he sent money, but he made like a mandate that they have to get this cleaned up.
Yeah. But the point is, to me, Trump should have come on and said, hey, listen, I didn't hire
That
the
wasn't
guy.
him. That wasn't-
Correct.
yeah.
I didn't hire the guy. He was in the building 5 hours before I even got there. It was an off-color joke. If it offended somebody, I'm sorry. You guys know me. I don't think like that.
Which, coming from a comedian, like people, that's what kills comedy.
Oh,
PC
I just don't
kills
think it
comedy.
was the place for that comment.
Probably not.
You know, this is where I wish my producer was here. He could have pulled it up,
But
pulled the line.
Kill
but
Tony is the
that's what he
biggest,
does. He's a roaster.
He's the biggest comedy touring event like that there's ever been.
Who's the guy on his show that does Donald Trump?
Oh, Shane Gillis.
Oh, he does a great
And
Donald
Adam-
Trump. As a
Adam
matter of
Ray.
fact, I had to double check a couple of times because I thought it was him
I know he does.
because he's so good at doing Donald Trump. The guy who does Biden is not as good, but
Adam Ray, yeah.
yeah, but
He's a good Dr. Phil, though.
is he? I could see
Great
that.
Dr.
I could see that. But unfortunately, I think, like I said, a little bit of mea culpa, I think, would go a long way for Donald Trump. Although I think he's come a long way from what he was in 2020. But
Well, that was a training wheels period. 16. He's to dive into another avenue of this. The first term was, the training wheels. He was figuring out who he could trust, who was a rhino, who was with him, who was loyal, who, you know what I mean? And all that has come out over these few years.
well, the funny thing is, you say that, during the interview with Rogan, he was asked, "What would you do differently the second time around?" And he had, unlike Kamala Harris, he has an answer. He said, "I was not a Washington D.C. guy. I only went to Washington D.C. maybe 10 times before that. 17, okay.
Odd number.
And it is an odd number for him to know that. But so he didn't know who the people were. He said there is something to be vetted in Washington D.C. There is something to know who you're going to rely on, because you need somebody that's going to support you 100%. Not, yeah, I'll do what you want, but then do this. And a lot of these people that he fired is because they went against his directives. They went against him. So when he came out, he said, "This time around, I know who I'm going to put in my cabinet. I know who I can trust."
Yeah, he's
and that's going to be
avoiding
different.
the transition process. Well, not avoiding it, but he's got his own people. He's
Yeah.
not taking.
Yep, you're not going to tell me who I can put in there.
He's not taking the government transition.
And to all the people who said that he hates, like Mark Cuban, I thought it was so funny how he got taken off of being a surrogate for Kamala Harris after he said that Donald Trump doesn't like strong women around him. He was the first one to appoint the first chief of staff as a woman.
And apparently she was like a spearhead behind his campaign.
And she's been around since Ronald Reagan. So she's a smart woman, powerful. Obviously, he's not afraid of her.
I haven't dove in deep into her yet, but from what I hear, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
So who do you think? I know who I would like. It would never happen, but who do you think he's going to pick as a press secretary?
I think Kaylee, hopefully.
He ain't going to pick her.
She was good.
I loved Kayleigh McEnany.
She had that book.
She was the
come
first
out
one.
and
She
be
was the
like-
first one to ever come out with a book.
Boom. Actually, we didn't say that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
She was. I think she
had
was the
that
first
book.
one
It was
to
a
ever come out with a
binder
book.
like
Yeah.
this.
And had all the tabs on the side, and
she
I
was like-
thought she was great. But I don't think it's going to be her. I really don't.
She looked like a hunchback 8th grader walking through the halls.
Yeah.
With a backpack full of books.
So take her out of the mix because she's not going to give up her lucrative deal at Fox. Who do you think? So give me a couple of your thoughts on cabinet posts.
Well,
Your educated thoughts.
I mean, I haven't really dove in too far down the line on that, but obviously, you know, the headliners of Elon being in charge of government efficiency, and you know, we know what he can do, how he brought Twitter down to 30% of its operating, and then I think you know, Kennedy, he's going to go after pharmaceuticals and
Is
the
it
medical
the food and
industry.
drug? Yeah. Yeah.
So you know, we're gonna make America healthy again. Hopefully.
Yeah, that's the slogan going on right now.
You know, even from 2021 when we had the she-male
Oh,
in charge there to this buff Kennedy, you know.
yeah.
You know, that should be great.
The adults are starting to populate the room. You think he'll put Tulsi Gabbard
I think
someplace?
she'll be in there. I think Elise Stefanik is going to be one on there somewhere.
Where would you put Tulsi Gabbard?
Probably something, you know, since she has a military background, probably something to do with the
Think she'd be
military.
defense secretary?
I wouldn't go that far.
No.
But, you know, she's you know, both her and Kennedy both have some pretty, you know, out of this world ideas. So you kind of have to keep them
Compartmentalized.
exactly.
Sure.
Thank you.
I knew what you meant.
So you know,
Where would Vivek fit in that?
I don't see Vivek out there.
I don't either.
I see Kash Patel.
As what?
He was the head of national security towards the end there.
So you think you'd put him back in there?
Him, Chris Miller, O'Brien. There's a bunch of guys and a lot of people you might never have heard of until the time comes.
You know who I'm disappointed that never end up coming out doing any collaborative work together was Nikki Haley. I know why he didn't pick her.
Well, he did say that he is not going to have Haley
No.
or the other guy there.
Which I think is too bad. I think Nikki Haley was a very good UN ambassador for us.
But she's just like we were talking about.
She's a corporate war machine person.
He was looking to see who was the loyal, and she turned on him real quick.
Well, she turned on him. She quit to seek office. I mean, it's kind of normal. It happens.
Well, not against the boss.
Well, when you're running against that job for that job, that's what happens.
Especially when you know you can't win. But I don't see her.
No, he came out and said no. I wish that. I wish she would be put that. I thought she did. She was a great UN secretary, ambassador. I mean.
Well, she ran well with the swamp because she was a part of the swamp. You know, just like Cheney.
Possibly.
Because Cheney is still a Republican.
Liz.
It's crazy.
Yeah, but she's not in office anymore. She got voted out.
Oh, did she?
Yeah.
Montana or Wyoming, wherever she was.
She was Wyoming. I don't think she's in office anymore.
I thought Pelosi got voted out, but she's still there.
So did I actually.
Yeah, right.
Liz Cheney, I thought lost re-election. She might have come in former United States representative.
But and to dive back into this, if Trump had won in 2020. He would have been a lame duck president because he wouldn't have had the Congress and Senate. You know what I mean? They would have been able to impeach him then because they had control of those houses. So that 2020 was kind of,
I'm just trying to read when she got out of there. 2023. She was a House representative in 2017 to 2023. Served as chair of the White House Conference, third highest position in the House of Republican leadership.
One of the few.
Cheney is known for her vocal. Cheney was known for her vocal opposition to former President Donald J. Trump. As of March 2023, she was a professor of practice at the University of Virginia in politics.
Another warmonger, though.
Oh yeah, it's funny how the Democrats hated the Cheneys. They were their enemy number one. But as soon as they came out against Donald Trump, oh come on. You know.
And Kennedy had a good post he did a week or two ago when, when war and illness are the biggest money makers, or once you understand that war and illness are the biggest money makers, you'll understand why things are the way they are.
Of course. Well, see, for me, a couple of my friends asked me, the ones that are Democrats that I still talk to, because a lot of them stopped talking to me. Why I was so adamant for Trump.
Well, I'm a libertarian. I'll talk to you.
Thanks. For me, actually, it was the war. It was war. Because, in 4 years, Trump scaled down war. He called troops home. He, other than controlling and managing pre-existing conflicts, no new ones were started. And he was quick to tell the people that were in the theater that wanted to continue war on the opposite side, hey, here's a picture of your house. I know your door locks don't work
Yeah,
well.
that was the head of
al-Baghdadi.
Taliban.
Yeah, al-Baghdadi, when he sat in front of him and said, I don't want one more pot shot on an American soldier because here's a picture right here. And al-Baghdadi, who's that? Don't you recognize it? Because that's my house. Yeah, and the door locks don't work well when you turn them to the left. So leave that there and make sure that no American soldiers ever shot again. I don't care that people think that's rude. I'm worried about American boys here.
Yeah, well,
American soldiers. And for me, I don't want to see my kids. I have two boys, 19 and 21, be drafted to go to fight for the Ukraine in something that has no at all purpose for us to be fighting in, other than supporting the corporate war machine.
and that's all they, Vietnam. You go
Yeah.
through the list, but yeah, no.
The only for me, I mean, you might disagree with me, but the only thing is, I think the Iraq War and the Afghanistan War, I think, were wars of necessity, only because I believe we were busy fighting them there, so we weren't fighting them here. We kept them busy over there and kept them there. Does it mean it could have been done differently? Sure. It's always easy to be Monday morning quarterbacks. I don't take that lesson and use it towards there. But at the time, I still stand by that point. I would rather the military fight them there than try to have our police manage them here, because we can't even manage migrants, let alone terrorists that want to kill us. So that's my take on that. But as far as anything new, like my kids going to fight in Israel, or my kids going to fight in the Ukraine, or my kids going to fight China and Taiwan, I don't see Donald Trump doing that to American military. He's anti. He'll make sure through diplomacy and through sanctions and through everything else, he will use up every single resource before boots are on the ground. And I didn't see that from the Democrats at all. If anything, they're marching us as fast as they can to a world war.
Yeah, no, and being somebody, I mean, granted, I'm at the latter edge of drafts, but still very much capable of being drafted. I have boys, and I have.
Well, you're a father, so that would preclude you from being drafted.
Who knows?
No, I think if you have a kid, if
I
you're
didn't
only
go to college, you know what I mean?
yeah, but you have children, and I think there's a couple of things, like if you're an only son, you can't be drafted. If you have children of your own, you can't be drafted. Unless shit really hits a fan, and then they're taking everybody.
But that wouldn't stop me from serving my country, because I 110% would serve my country, but I have no interest in serving
To fight
the
somewhere else.
masters in some foreign soil. But if you want to come here, I will dig my boots in the ground and good luck.
Well, funny enough, so they had the initial invasion of Ukraine back. God, that's almost 5 years ago now. Feels like it was so long ago. They had a study or a poll, and they broke it down by party lines, Republicans and Democrats. And the question, I'm going to paraphrase the question. I just don't remember exactly what it was. I wish I had a photographic memory. But if this country was invaded and you had an option to leave, would you stay or would you fight? Would you leave or would you stay and fight?
Oh, yeah. Where are you going to go?
And well, that wasn't a scenario. You had a place. Let's say you had a place to go, and
This is the last bastion of freedom.
and it actually broke down pretty close to party lines. It was like 75% of Republicans said they would stay, and like 90% of Democrats said they would leave. It was so damning of the philosophy of the parties that the reporter that was actually reporting on it was like, I'm having a hard time believing these numbers because they're so bad.
Yeah.
You know, but this is where we are. This is why our country is so divided. We have two diametrically opposed visions for our country. One's America first, patriotic, small government, individual responsibility kind of people, and on the other side we have big government, cradle to grave taken care of, world government. You shouldn't. Your country should not be first. The society as a whole should be first, and they no longer mesh.
Well, I think it's part of that indoctrination. You know what I mean? Like, people, the way the media and social media and TV and Hollywood and all these things, they want to demasculate men. And when you demasculate men, a society, there's an old saying, strong men make good times make weak men make hard times.
And the cycle starts over again.
And the cycle starts again. So, we're in this cynical loop, and unless you're awake enough to stop staring at the screen, which could be an MK Ultra.
What's that?
An MK Ultra. You ever heard of that one?
No.
MK Ultra is a mind control. It's a government.
Oh, jeez.
I
know you like your deep dives.
I
you
do
love
like that.
your deep dives.
Blue screen. Blue
Yeah.
screen affects the frontal lobe. But it makes us complacent, where, once you get this screen in front of you, you don't really care about the rest of the world because you're just...
Well, to the point that you said that, I know you and I meander all the time on our podcast, but I do believe that this is probably the single worst invention that has ever come about. And my reason for that isn't because it's a cell phone or that you can monopolize your time looking at stuff. But the problem is you can cater to only what you believe in on this.
Yeah.
And you get instant gratification. You don't want to wait for it. You flip it through and you cancel somebody or whatever else. And I think what happens is psychologically, you're no longer able to be patient. You no longer be able to conflict resolution because you're so used to just clicking it away, you'll cancel somebody. And I think that's becoming a bigger and bigger problem. And not that I believe that government should be involved with dictating things like this, but I do feel there needs to be a greater study to understand the psychological damage that's being done specifically to kids when it comes to the addictive behavior of a phone and the ability psychologically to just switch quickly to what you don't like or ignore or cater just your feed to what you believe.
I don't like what he said. I'm going to block him.
Yeah, it creates fanaticism, I think, in a certain way.
Well, on the back of that phone, what's the emblem?
Yeah, but you have Motorola on there. Could be an Apple, Motorola,
But I'm just
Samsung,
saying,
whatever.
the forbidden fruit.
I think those are far cries, but I agree with you. I've seen all
know what
those.
I mean?
Yeah.
It's the forbidden fruit, which is
Apple with a bite in it. Yeah.
Which is what got Eve.
Yeah. I think I don't know. I think that's just luck of that. But
Very coincidental.
yeah, very coincidental. I couldn't think of the word, but I just think. But to your point, you're right. I think
Android.
So you have? There you go. I just think that's one of the problems that we have in society today is that we are so we're programming ourselves to only listen to what we like to listen to. Actually, I caught myself today. There was a bunch of, because all of a sudden there's, oh, you should follow this or you should follow that on Facebook. You should follow this page. And they're all anti to what I think. They're all left-leaning. So I'm like, no.
Listen, sometimes.
I get so mad. I was reading one today. So it was like, I don't know. I think it was called, I don't know, whatever. It was some weird name, but it was, the post was, well, as the moderator of this page, I went through and I took all the red hats and all the red hat comments out of this feed, and I'm going to start canceling people who voted for Trump, so that they can't comment. So I'm starting to read the posts. in the comments in that post, and they're all hate-filled. Women saying they're full of rage and they've never been so angry, and they feel the need to lash out at Republicans, and on and on and on and on. And I'm like, holy crap! These people need a life. So I just did exactly what I said I'm anti. I just forget.
And how many
delete.
are just bots? Because that's out there too.
Oh yeah, you have phone banks and people are just typing
You're
words.
arguing with a computer.
Yeah, they proved that actually.
AI.
Yeah, but I don't know. I just I fear for what's I'm hopeful for what's coming, but I fear also what's coming because of the left.
Well, and to jump back to to the election and what's to come, I think, I mean, I know there's a lot of uproar around social media and things like that, and even the media, but still, I think there's like a calmness, like it's like an eerie calm.
Actually, funny you should say that. They had a lot of the newscasts said that on Wednesday morning, that they were surprised on how like restful society seemed to be.
There's an eerie calm though with the puppet masters, with the mouthpieces. I think.
I don't think they expected what happened.
Well, that, or I think they're just gearing up for what, you got J6 coming up, which is the actual certification.
Yeah.
And you go back and Biden.
So it's J6, January 6th is the date where the vote actually gets certified in the House. So all the electoral college votes come in, and the vice president, Kamala Harris,
Which they
has
removed
to.
her ability because of Pence. Remember that? After Pence, they they removed that
I missed
ability
that.
to be like the tiebreaker or whatever.
I missed that. Okay, but she's still the one certifying the votes. So she's got to come through and certify the votes and then on the 20th is actually the inauguration, right? Where
21st,
something like that is where he does the speech at the Capitol and everything else. So, 100 days.
And a couple odd things that have popped up this week. There's, chatter that they might remove Sotomayor.
I heard that and possibly put Kamala Harris in there.
Kamala in there.
That to me, you know what? I don't know if they have the time to do that, but I could definitely see that as being the biggest FU to Trump ever.
There's another FU could possibly come. Biden could step down and make her president, making her 47, which would throw out all his hats and insignias.
Oh, could you imagine?
Probably billions of dollars.
Could you imagine? What a...
So there's a few.
I never thought of that one. How bad would that be?
There's a few FUs that they could throw.
If that was me, I'd do that. I would do that. Absolutely. That'd be the easiest thing to do. You don't need anything. That would be, I think it'd be funny either way.
But to dive back to that, how like this eerie quietness, there's not quite the uproar and rioting in the streets that, people or the media wanted or whatever. Remember Biden telling Iran that if anything happened to a presidential nominee, that it would be war?
Okay. Well, Iran did come out and vehemently say that they had nothing to do with any of the assassination attempts on Trump.
And
and they were like, please believe us, we never had anything to do with it. We didn't.
So, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
It doesn't matter because if they try to take them out and actually succeed, we're at war. Because it's in the playbook.
Well, the problem is I think the goal was always to try to get a war going before the election.
It was supposed to be with North Korea.
I think. And I think that now that Trump is president-elect, or they saw the writing on the wall that Trump was going to get in, I think a lot of the game plans changed because Kim Jong-un, Xi Jinping, Putin, the Ayatollahs all know that there's no playing around with the Donald Trump like they play with Joe Biden.
They've already submitted to him. The Great Submission Tour of 2017. They've already all submitted. He knows. They know. You know, that's a whole different.
But the problem,
podcast.
the thing is that what I don't understand is why do people think that's a bad thing? Why do people? How can people think? Yeah, the world fears the United States. What the hell is wrong with that? That just means security for us, economic and physical security for us. You know, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Sure, that always got us in trouble. Or let me take the high road that always got us in trouble. But whenever we've had a firm hand in history, whether it be economic or military, we are always the winner.
Well, you know, there is no simple one-way answer to any of this stuff because it's a multi-prong,
Sure.
you know, offense. But
why? What I'm saying is, how can people think it's not good to be like that?
I have no idea.
It makes no sense.
It makes no sense. But if you dive back into the last, 30, 40 years, every country that we have been at war with have all refused to join the Rothschild central banking system. That's Libya, Iraq, Russia, China. You go down the list, they've all refused to join the central banking system. And Trump did an interview probably a decade ago or more, and he talked about it. And he said, Saddam was not a good guy. Gaddafi was not a good guy, but the world was better off when they were in power because they wouldn't have allowed what is happening in their countries today. Once Obama came into play, it became a hotbed of terrorism.
Yeah, well,
that's lit on fire.
Yeah, that's the thing is that you had force in the area to to squash down whatever
It was a
uprising.
hotbed.
Yeah, that makes sense. Unfortunately, a Gaddafi couldn't be left unchecked. So, although Reagan killed his kid and Gaddafi kind of was quiet for quite a while.
Yeah, I mean, you look into. I mean, I'm not defending these guys, but they were a gold country, so they had plenty of wealth. People, when they had a baby, they had all this ample time off and paid. Schools were all paid for. The roads were paved. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't. I'm not. You know what I mean? This isn't like. But ultimately, as far as a third world country goes, they were doing pretty good.
Yeah.
But they didn't allow for pardon my French, the bullshit to happen that happens today. Now it's lawless.
Yeah. And unfortunately, that's bad policy on our part.
And people knew not to go outside the bounds there.
Yeah.
Not that it's great, but it worked for them.
So just to circle back around, because we're
Meandering.
we're going pretty. We've gone pretty long here. We're at almost an hour and a half.
We're getting into Rogan territory.
Yeah, really,
Keep going.
really. But getting back to what we initially were talking about, your 100 days.
Oh yeah.
What is your biggest? What do you think is going to be his biggest challenge to implement what he wants to do? To me, I think it's the deportation part.
Well, I think he's, we talked about the cabinet with Kennedy and Elon and stuff, and I think, and Trump isn't trying to take on all this himself. He's going to put people in place to take care.
Well, that's what a manager does.
Yeah, exactly. He's going to put his people into place to take care of certain things, and I think his biggest thing is going to be, the border and immigration, the economy. The elections, I think, is going to be huge because they're going to have to completely change this election system. Even though he won, and it seems
problem is that
good.
you can't though because the states.
We have to make a federal law, holiday.
But no. The states run how the votes are counted and how the election offices run. Right down to each individual county dictates how the votes are counted. There's nothing uniform in our voting election system.
Well, that's true because New York is a non-ID vote, and in my county, I had to show ID. Which
Albany County?
No, Saratoga.
You should have just gone with Albany.
Come on. But I thanked them. I said thank you.
Yeah.
There wasn't me telling them my name and looking at a scribble on a page that they, sift through. They had to scan my ID. It showed if I had already voted. I I had to, sign to.
The problem with that, Adam, is that the conservative counties do the right way. Albany County didn't check votes.
Which is why that's why it needs a complete
Yeah.
overhaul. It does, you know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
you'll never have that, unfortunately.
I'm all
because
about states' rights, but it needs to be a national holiday, whatever the case may be, but it needs to be completely uniform for that particular thing.
I've always said if there was, if elections weren't filled with fraud, the dailies would never win in Chicago. And that's the problem, is that you'll never get that. The Democrats would never want the way Saratoga County does its voting, because there's no ambiguity. This is the vote. You can't have the hanging chad. You can't have unidentified ballots. You can't have,
Gerrymandering.
there's none of that. It's pretty black and white. And if that's the case, then no dead people vote. And the Democrats are never going to want that, unfortunately.
And
which I don't understand. You would think the ones that want to preach fair elections are the ones that want to rig it.
And another thing that boggles the old brain here, how can I track my, salad spoon from Taiwan to my front door through Amazon, but I don't know if my vote was counted. I don't know if it went to who I wanted to vote for. I don't know. There's like complete no transparency at all.
I'll tell you why.
Because it's rigged.
Because one is private sector and one is public sector.
So why can't we do this?
Because
I can track my tax.
There is no desire by the public sector to fix it, because if they fix it, they're accountable for the vote.
Which is why it needs a complete overhaul.
I don't disagree. I don't think you're going to get it.
I hope it does. I think it could, because he's got nothing to lose. And he's got the power to do it now.
Well, he doesn't. He doesn't have the power to. Well, what he could do is he could say, again, how would you enforce it? That's the other thing. He could say, Trump could come out, or the federal government come out and say, for a presidential election, these are the machines you need. This is what needs to take place, down the line. What happens if New York says to the federal government, screw you, I'm not doing what you say?
Then your votes don't count. I think the machines need to go.
Could you imagine
the machines need to go?
Could you imagine if on election night New York would come out as a white dot because the votes don't count because they didn't follow? You would have riots in the street. Although you're talking to somebody who's just playing devil's advocate.
Yeah,
I think there should be a uniformed election process nationwide for president. They can do whatever they want during non-presidential races, but for president, you have to, or federal elections, you have to run this system.
I think, and going in the mindset of the past, there's never been a president or anybody of significant influence to put that forward.
You think he can do it?
I think he can do 100%. I think there's so much that's going to come. There's over 250,000 sealed indictments that have been on the docket for several years now.
They'll never open those. That'll prove he won.
I think those sealed indictments.
They're going to come out. Listen.
Why do you think why do you think Kamala was out there saying he's going after the American people? He never said the enemy within was the American people. He's talking about you.
I believe in my hearts of hearts that the reason why they were fighting so hard to stop him from winning is because all the shady shit from 2020 is going to come out. The Epstein list is going to come out. All the assassination things with JFK is going to come out. He's going to expose, now that he knows how government works, he's going to expose the deep state. He's going to expose the enemy within. He's going to expose the Soros influence and what they've been doing to our country. He's going to expose all that stuff. And they all knew it, and they are afraid. And it should be fun to watch.
And the last point I'll make before we exit, unless you want to keep going, I can keep going.
I'll just have you on again.
But I just read this morning or last night, something like that, but after Biden's and Trump's debate that knocked Biden out, Biden's own internal polls showed Trump winning the election at over 400 electorals.
He had A landslide.
That was Biden's internal polling.
Wow.
So it makes a lot of sense. Why they polled him.
That's Ronald Reagan right there.
Well, that's almost Nixon.
Did Nixon,
Nixon was a 50-state sweep. I think Nixon
I thought Reagan was the only one that had a 50 states other than Mondale's home state.
No, I don't even know if Reagan got it, but Nixon 100% was one of the most popular presidents in history. He got all 50 states.
They took him out hard.
Why do you think they did?
Oof.
And they got him to take us off the gold standard. It's not any one thing.
Look at our board. Show prep ideas. What's that say right there?
Down the rabbit hole with Adam.
See?
5 minutes only.
We definitely have to have another show going down like the last time. So a couple of rabbit holes there. But I want to wrap it up. Final takes on everything.
I think we're in a good place. I think everybody needs to stay frosty.
Stay
frosty. Never let your guard down. And, we are the media now. The media has its lowest approval ratings in history. And, it used to be that people wouldn't sit and listen to long, drawn out things on the news or whatever, but now people tune in to 3-hour-long podcasts.
Yeah.
They want to hear the truth.
Agreed.
And I think it's coming.
Well, my take.
And it's here.
Yeah, absolutely. It is here. It's here. And podcasting is here to stay.
Yeah. We are media now.
One thing I want to tell everybody, all of our listeners and viewers, is we try really hard to bring you not only how we think and how we feel, obviously, but as much as we can that's truthful. Everything that I say, that I speak about, I've done my research, and you guys, I've said it in every podcast. Go check it out and make your own decision. Do not let somebody else put that thought in your mind. And if you don't know it, Google it. It's right here.
That's the amazing thing.
It's right here. Everything's at your fingertips, We try very hard to give you the best news, the best insight, and the best commentary. Sometimes it's off color, but hey, we like to have fun and joke around. Sometimes it's long-winded because we meander.
Like to roll a snowball every now and again.
Yeah, that's cool too. But it's only because we love doing what we do. We're in a good place. Everything will be all right. Like Tom Hanks said one day, this too shall pass for Democrats that are upset. You're going to see that the media did lie to you, and Donald Trump isn't going to be the boogeyman. And your 401k is already doing better. Yeah. And we're already seeing geopolitical movements that are in favor of the United States, not away, because people know that there's an adult in the room. Unfortunately, the media has lied to everybody and has corrupted people into thinking wrong things and not do their own research. But you know what? That's why we're here. That's why we're here, and we'll give you as much as we can. And
that's proven psychology, and it goes to show what has happened. If you hear something 100 times, you're going to believe it.
Tell yourself a lie often enough, it'll become truth. So with that, God bless America, red wave, and we'll keep you up to date with everything that comes up. Till we meet again.
Thank you.
We were great. We were free. Had a country that couldn't be beat.
Quite the singer.
We were right